Good evening. It is Thursday, the 6th of June, 2024. It's coming up to 8:30 p.m. UK time. And this is the 45-day show, episode 23. And I've got a very special guest. He's a Brighton legend in the sort of hip hop scene. He's someone who I probably met quite a while ago and then have seen sort of occasionally here. And then we bumped into each other at a festival a couple of weekends ago. And I was like, right, let's have a chat and catch up and see what you're doing now. So without further ado, he is Hinesy Hines.
Yo,
Thanks for coming on, man. You know, it was a bit random bumping into you at Elderflower Festival the other week, but started a conversation and here we are.
It was enjoyable. I enjoyed your set as well, man. So big ups for that.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's an interesting little festival. We've done it for a few years, like ZZ played and I've played, but yeah, it's a good, fun family festival, and it's nice to see people having a good time. But first time on my show, I always ask my guests the same question. Who was it for you that first influenced you musically? Who first got you into music? Was it like parents, brothers, sisters, friends, TV? You know, who first got you into music? Because I know it's a passion for you,
That's
like
a
it is for me.
Really good and hard question, man. I think so. My mum, she was into everything. She was an eclectic person, and but she never bought any music. We had a good friend who used to just tape stuff. He bought everything that came out, and she had walls of cassettes. And I think because of that, I was exposed to everything. Everything. She was very much into like reggae. Who am I thinking of? John Lee Hooker, like world music, everything. Do you know what I mean? That was like
nice.
All the time. It was an amazing introduction to music, but it was almost a bit too much. And then when I found music, just relevant to this, like when I found hip hop, and I was like, oh, my mum doesn't know shit about this. That was a definite influence. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so when was that? How old were you when you found hip hop?
It's really hard to say because there's the music side of it and there's the visual side of it. And I think the visual side is first, man, because I'm an artist and I'm a visual person. So I reckon graffiti was definitely first, man. I was always in the library looking at subway art and all that shit, and anything I could do to. I'm from York originally. I'm not from Brighton, and there was graph in York, but it's such a red brick city, or it's got old York stone and ancient buildings. There wasn't much public graph. Do you know what I mean? Like, shouts out to Part 2. Like, he's the person that I spotted things. So I saw some graph and stuff. So I reckon graph is my first introduction to hip hop at a really, really young age. And then much later, I learned it was all connected. So musically, it's a hard question, man. I think there's a lot of things popping up at the same time. First thing I bought on cassette is Fat Boys.
Right. Okay.
So I was probably about eight.
So the Fat Boys is in Wipeout.
Yeah, that was it. That was the track. That was the track.
Yeah, it's a classic. I mean, I think I've got it somewhere in here on 45, but it was one of those classics that was sort of just everywhere, wasn't it? You know, it's a bit cheesy, but at that time and that age, it was fun, wasn't it?
I think you know, a lot of my favorite and the things that I used to listen to a lot are all those kind of novelty songs. You know, it might not be the best hip hop in the world, but like Tone Loc as well. Do you know what I mean? Funky Cold do you know what I mean? All things like that. Like the Turtles soundtrack. I fucking love that.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The soundtrack. Yeah.
Again,
I love Yarkid K. I'm still a massive fan of Yarkid K.
I played it. I've got a 45 from Turtle Power, I think it is, and played it, and yeah, it's hilarious. I'm going to say hello and hola to Mixter Hoffman over in Germany. So hey, Mixter, good to see you. Okay, so obviously you see the graph, so that's the first sort of element. Then the music comes later in the Fat Boys. Now, are you buying music? Are you probably too young, or were you buying music at sort of 8 or 9, or not yet?
Yeah. I bought Fat Boys Cushion on cassette. Yeah, definitely. Again, I was buying cassettes definitely for a long time. And yeah, I was copying a lot of cassettes too. I'm not pretending it was not, but everyone was. But yeah, no, it was difficult to find hip hop. And I was just absorbing everything I could. And it didn't take long until like we went from the novelty fun stuff that I'm talking about, even your Vanilla Ices and your MC Hammers and all that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very quickly, I was getting in trouble at school for reciting Ice-T lyrics and NWA and everything else that you could probably imagine, anything I could get my hand on. So there was a really sick record shop in York, and I've got to pick them up, the Depth Charge Records, and anyone who used to read Hip Hop Connection, you'll remember those. They had ads in there. It was a sick record shop, you know? And they put up with us when we were really young, and we'd go in there and had a little listening room, and we'd go in and take like everything that came out every week, even from that, probably a bit later than what I'm talking about. Yeah, like in our teenage years, and they just tolerate us. Like one of us might buy one thing, maybe. Do you know what I mean, Matt? But it was sick.
I mean, yeah, I mean that brings up a few things. Obviously, we'll talk later about audio active and all of that side of things. But the fact you're saying that they tolerated you, I think they saw that, you know, music is something to be shared, and there shouldn't be a bar to it. You know, there shouldn't be an age bar or anything to that. But also on a shop point of view, you know, get them in young buying records, and then they'll carry on and they'll be your customers for a long time.
It's a lost thing, man. I think when, you know, when I was introduced to the sort of poppy side of hip hop and everything, and then when I started exploring and trying to find the real hip hop, which I didn't even know what it was, there was a very much like each one teach one, for want of a better phrase, and everyone was so, there was so few heads around as well. Like maybe that was different in London, but in the north, like we kind of knew each other. We all knew each other from York to Leeds to Manchester to Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? Like there wasn't many of us. Do you know what I mean? They're the ones who were actually into it. And I think there was a genuine, you know, it's going back to Graph, man. Like that bit, like York didn't have many hip hop things going on, but massive shouts out to New Flesh for Old, because like they're such an influence on so many levels. Do you know what I mean? Like but you know, I mentioned I used to go to the library and I was looking at subway art. One of the times I was in there looking at subway art, part 2 was in there, and you know, obviously produced for New Flesh for Old, and the absolute don in the graffiti game as well. But yeah, he just, you know, he invited me around to learn to paint one time and show me all his black books and stuff. And that's how it used to be. Do you know what I mean? People would be like, oh my God, you're really into this and you know what you're talking about. Like, let's share the knowledge. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they give you some experience. So I think the first time I ever on, there's earlier times on stage, but I remember meeting them guys and Toasty Taylor pushing me up on stage when I was probably 15, 16. Yeah. So I think that kind of, it's been a bit lost apart from what we do, obviously. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's good that it's still, obviously it's probably more accessible now, isn't it? I think because there's more workshops happening like you do, and obviously like a couple of weekends ago, I took my daughter to one over in Worthing, and it was a DJ and spray painting sort of thing, and they loved it. They had a brilliant time, and it's great that these sort of things are happening and kids are being given option. Because I when I was a kid living in Eastbourne where I lived, there was nothing like that going on, and I would have loved that. I think as a kid, spray painting and graffiti and stuff like that.
But also, despite everything I've just said, I'll backtrack a bit. Like I think when I started rapping now, when I actually started rapping, there was a lot of people like, "Why are you doing that? Like, you shouldn't be doing that." Especially because I was known for art. It was shut down a little bit, and like, at school, like my mum was pretty good generally, but she's just like, "You could be doing better things. You're talented in other ways," and I kind of like never took it very seriously, and still don't, massively still don't. But it was so like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Whereas nowadays, it's just great to see just that encouragement of, oh, you should. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas once upon a time, there was just some older heads who were like, oh, you're quite good, you should carry on. Do you know what I mean? That was it.
Yeah, and I mean, we are talking sort of pre mobile phones, social media, all of this stuff now. It's a very different world, isn't it? But again, it's good that the sort of each one help one is there and was there and helped you get into it? Because if that sort of hadn't been there, you might have been a different path.
Well, you know what? Like, it was all loads of chance encounters, the rap side of things. Do you know what I mean? I'm massively big at my very good friend Ray Tudor from York. Like, he started rapping before me, and I freestyled with him and just messed about and stuff. But it was like a random chance encounter when we were probably 15, maybe younger. There was a community festival somewhere in York, and Credit to the Nation played. If you remember,
Right? Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
But they were like, we met them and we were kind of like, oh man, there's real rappers that aren't New Fresh Roll in York, and like, so this is crazy. Do you know what I mean? And we went, approached them and chatted to them. They were absolutely lovely to us. They were wonderful. But then they were like, do any of you rap? And my mate Ray was just like, yeah, I rap. I was going, Ray, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you, like, don't say this? And he freestyled so well. It was like awe-inspiring. And it was to them as well. They were like, that's so sick. And I was like, where the fuck did that come from? And it was so inspiring, like, so inspiring, that I was just like pissing around with him because he's my mate. I think I'd helped him write some bars before. That was pretty much my involvement, and messed around in bedrooms. But like, watching him killing something, been put under the pressure. If anyone knows me who's watching this, that is the day that I became the person you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love being under pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Amazing. That it took that path again. You know, like you said, it took a chance thing to happen like that got you into it. So where did it go from there?
well, it's you know, like, it's a difficult one. I think with most things with the hip hop world, like, I haven't really done what I'm supposed to, or people expect to, and I think with rapping, like, I've barely released any music. Really. I mean, I probably rap more than your favorite rapper, but that was never my impetus. That was never the first thing. That's not why I got involved in that. I just wanted to be. I just love cypher. I got inspired in a park, not by a record. And, you know what I mean? It's just the truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I try and teach that a lot to other people. But yeah, I think that's the same for other aspects of what I do, production and art. And yeah, I don't really care what I'm supposed to do. I want to do what I think I should do, what I'm inspired by. And I was inspired by being the best rapper in the room.
Yeah. So that competition, that you've got to be the best rapper, or
nah, you don't have to be the best rapper. You have to be the best rapper in the second, in the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I've done battling and stuff, and I'm not a fan of that world. Do you know what I mean? But I've done jump off battles and don't flop battles, and I've done thousands of off the cuff battles. And even just from hosting Slipjam, I had to like put people in check and be a policeman on the stage when it came to rapping.
Yeah.
But that isn't necessarily like what I'd like to do. Well, on the other side of things, I try and encourage. I used to also encourage the wallflowers to get up, and the quiet people that I could see were like generally scheming. I would always try and open it up for them, and for like diversity's sake as well. Like when it was being very, very volatile, male dominated, and I'm like spotting some girls in the corner. I'm like, pretty sure they rap. You know, I'd always try and. It was the difficult part being the host of Slipjam.
Well, let's just pause there, because obviously I know what Slipjam is, because I used to come and, you know, we've sort of done stuff with 12-inch Matter and stuff there. But in case anyone doesn't know what Slipjam is, what is it?
It's long before my no, it's not long before my time. But when I moved to Brighton, and I was very happy to find out there was a regular open mic thing that started in 1999. And shouts out to Code and Conan for starters. And even before that, there's people before that when it was more of just a jam night, and it just got handed down to people. And I was there as a punter for many years. Brainiac, shouts out to Brainiac. He was the host. That I just moved down. It was probably like 2001, I think, maybe a bit earlier. and it was. I was going to say it was a great night. It was a very hit and miss night when I used to go. It was all over the place, but there was loads of rappers there, and I was like, I've never been to anything like this, where it's more rappers than crowd, and it's full.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, never. I'd been all over the country doing bits and bobs, but I hadn't been to anything like that. And I found it really fascinating. And the first time I went down, I don't know if it was the very first one. Hard to remember, but a guy was on stage that went to uni with my best friend. He'd been sent. My best friend had been. Shouts out to Oscar. Don't know if you listen, Oscar Donahoe. Shouts out to Ian Stevenson. I think I've mentioned 3 of my York boys now. That's pretty good. But he went to uni with a guy called Dr. Syntax, which I'm sure everyone's probably familiar with. And before Dr. Syntax was known, he was sending me like songs and going, "Oh, you should check this guy. You should check this guy." And I was into it. But I didn't really respond much or get involved. And then at one of the early Slipjams, he just happened to be there.
Right.
And he's a good freestyler, man, and I'm a good freestyler, and we just kind of just raised the standard massively in one night, because I was like, well, I'm fucking up for this, and he was taking it up, and I was taking it up, he was taking it up. It was sick, man, and it just, I mean, I don't think I'm being arrogant in saying it, because I think a lot of people will say this, but that standard set that night made Brighton suddenly a real freestyles friendly place, and lots of people aspired to be freestylers, and it kind of changed Slipjam, and that was just with us just pissing around. Like, he was there with a crew called Menagerie, and they were all very good friends of mine, and most of them were sick freestyles as well. Shouts out to Tej and Longusto and Elemental, obviously now Professor Elemental. Yeah, it was just a bit of a weird turning of the tides. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a monumentous thing, I think, and that from my experience, it might have been different from people in the crowd. But
it was successful though, and it went. And obviously, we used to travel from Eastbourne. I know other people used to travel from the south coast to it. There wasn't anything local happening like that at all, unless you were going to London. So it was great to have it on the south coast, wasn't it?
well, and I think when, because I wasn't hosting at that point, I think there was just a bit of a change of pace when certain people got involved, because Syntax quickly moved down. He was just visiting. We just happened to meet each other. We just clicked. Do you know what I mean? I've known each other ever since. We're in a crew together and blah blah blah. But then I met all the locals, and I just think it was really healthy for what was going on. Like, shouts out, it was just such a united scene suddenly. There was people coming out of the woodwork, and it was really strong. I went to a funeral the other day of my good friend Criztoz, who was one of the Brighton originators, and I can't big him up enough, man. He was one of the first to get wax in Brighton, and he was absolute legend with all sorts of amazing features and stuff. But it was really, it was obviously a very difficult day, but it was so beautiful who was there. Do you know what I mean? Like, Tom Caruana had come down from, people came from around the country to come back and get involved, and they were all people who were present in those early days. Do you know what I mean? Root, amazing rapper. Gunshot were there, man. Sick. It's pretty crazy, man. Obviously, Keller was there. He was in a crew with Criztoz, but it was just so sick to it was a real memory jogger of how significant those days were when that amount of people descended on Brighton to come back to Brighton.
And it just shows the sort of strength of community, doesn't it? And the bonding through music. Like you say, that 20 years later, everyone's sort of recongregating, sadly, for rest in peace to Coast. But it's good that people still come together and appreciate that they need to celebrate people that they may not be in touch with constantly now, isn't it? It's so important.
Yeah, man. And I think there's something weird about rapping, especially about I'm going to mention Syntax again now, because I've got loads of really good friends that I text on a daily basis, and I or at least check in with them, and me and Syntax, like, he's definitely one of my best friends, and like we don't even talk much, man. Like, we just rap. But I know him so well because we freestyle. I know his kind of inner thoughts, do you know what I mean? And I know how his mind works. I know I don't know what he's going to say, but I kind of know his thought process, do you know what I mean? And that could be said of a lot of people. Like big up John Clark as well, actually sick freestyler. And there's lots of people I rap with a lot, and you get a weird familiarity with them. For anyone who doesn't freestyle, who raps especially, like, I would be like, you're missing out on a bit of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're missing out on this like kind of weird level of communication where you learn their synapses. Like, it's kind of weird, man.
I mean, it must be a weird thing, is it? Because it's a freestyle, it's completely different to like rapping a verse or whatever, isn't it? And it's just whatever comes out there, but also in reaction to what's come before, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. There's the reaction. Like I can't. MCs probably won't like it, but I know their entire vocabulary sometimes is in like, oh, that's not in their vocabulary. Whereas I have people around with, I'm like, fuck me, Jesus Christ. Like they inspire me and they push me because of the things that they put out and stick together. And I mean, I don't want to get into the mechanics of rapping because I'll just be doing a rap workshop. But still, like, it's fascinating. I think sometimes is the way people play on things, and when that playfulness comes, do you know what I mean? Like some of my favourite ciphers have been where people have just randomly mentioned an 80s band for no reason, and then everyone drops like a weird 80s band reference, and it's just so creative and funny and so of that moment. But like, it doesn't translate well necessarily even to a crowd. Do you know what I mean? But it's so like in that moment.
Yeah, but again, it's firing off something in your head, a neuron. You know, you suddenly remember you've never thought of these 80s bands for like 20 years, and then suddenly someone says something, you're like, oh yeah. I mean, interestingly, we talk about the 80s. I've got like a stash of smash hits magazines that I've got, and some of them, there's one of them is the Beastie Boys on the front cover, and it's like, you know, it's like 1987. So rap, and certainly from America, was already making quite a big impact already at that stage, wasn't it? In sort of 87.
Yeah.
Carried on from there, hasn't it? Ever since.
Yeah. And it was so weird because like it was quite poppy. The things I got into, like I mentioned earlier, like, so I ain't gonna lie, I really liked the years I was into MC Hammer.
My daughter plays it. My daughter loves it. You Can't Touch This. She loves that song.
MC Hammer on a cassette mega mix medley was the sickest thing. Do you know what I mean? I loved that. Shouts out to Ian Stevenson again. He knows what I'm talking about. But like, no, I loved it. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, and like, you know, like, I guess it changed. You know, there was that conscious rap stuff going on. I wouldn't say conscious, it was just rap. And then obviously the 90s happened. And it went two ways at the same time, really. Well, slightly earlier went a bit gangster rap. And then there was just all that New York shit, do you know what I mean? Which was fucking amazing, do you know what I mean? And all my friends really were much more West Coast and much more gangster. So I was totally immersed in that all the time. I didn't dislike it, but I was much more New York, definitely. Like Woo, Black Moon, fucking love Black Moon. Like, I don't know. I just used to find a bit of consciousness in it. Like, it wasn't conscious rap, but I loved the word in. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd have to. I was going to say Google things. That wasn't a thing, but there was words I didn't understand, and I'd have to find out what they meant. There was concepts. There was mythology. There was like religious terms I didn't know what they meant, and I loved that shit. Do you know what I mean?
So how did you research that stuff pre-internet?
I don't know. Can't remember.
I mean, were you going to the library? Were you asking people?
Yeah, I was asking people. I was asking questions all the time, man. Like, I used to not pretend I knew something. I used to find that really weird. when people pretended they knew what it was.
That's
'Cause
just a pleasing thing, isn't it? You know, people are like, oh yeah. When they don't.
I'm a comics head, man. Do you know what I mean? I'm a super Marvel comics head from the 1990, definitely. But there was loads of adverts in those and loads of like words used in those. So when people would be like Miracle Whip, I was like, I know what fucking Miracle Whip is, man. Do you know what I mean? I've seen the advert in a comic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's little things. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I hated it when people pretend they knew what it was. I'm like, no, I've always asked. I've always been very, very aware of not pretending to know what you're on about. I think, but I found it fascinating, man.
Yeah. No, that's
Still
great.
do, man. Like when I'm lying in bed at night, I'm still looking at words. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm still trying to work out. I don't want to, especially if I'm writing, which I don't do very often. I've got to admit, I try not to write. But if I want to make sure I'm using something in complete context. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I say hello to a couple of people? DJ Octobar from Raid Power, welcome in. He's saying great music, he's checked your SoundCloud, so there you go. And I think, is this your brother, Will I Am?
That'll be Will Hines.
Yeah. So he's welcome in, Will, and congratulations on the festival ticket win.
Yeah, I
Did
mean,
well.
Will, make you famous.
Yeah.
No, shouts out to my brother. He's had to put up with me doing all this sort of stuff for years, and like he's not on the same page. Shouts out to Will. He likes Brian Adams. Do you know what I'm saying?
Something very different.
No, he's met him 6 times, 5 times, 6 times. Like he'll mention it.
Yeah. Okay, let's move it forward a little bit then. So obviously you talked about Slipjam before you became a host.
Yeah.
How did that change when you did become a host, and how did the Slipjam itself progress?
Oh, this is a hard one without pissing people off. So I basically I tried to book really good people and make it a significant thing. And I became a host first because Brainiac moved to America, and then it was like in the days of the Brighton Hip Hop Forum. I don't know if you were part of that. It was kind of a cesspit of proto cyberbullying.
Right. Okay.
It wasn't really a bad thing, but it was quite a funny place. But then everyone was moaning about Slipjam losing its way and everything. And I was like there. And, to be honest, I was a vocal component going, needs a bloody host. And then I think it was HP, shouts out HP from Rare Kind. I think it was HP, which is so, why do you do it then? And I was like, oh, bloody will then, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And so I started hosting first before the people who had been doing it for so long, like Code and Cunningham, like decided they wanted to step back, and they were quite reluctant to relinquish it. I started doing the artwork and the posters and stuff as well. So I was drawing all the characters, drawing caricatures of people, like probably before I started hosting actually. Well, similar time. But then when I had like not full control, that sounds shit. But once I was booking people, I was being a bit more strategic. So I was asking the community who they wanted to get. I wasn't just saying you can play Slipjam because you're from Brighton anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I was also like being very much to local people, like, yeah, I'd like you to support this, but bring your mates, or I won't ask you again. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it just made it go really, like, I think there's, I don't want to big myself up really because there's a lot of people involved in it, but we just started getting a really high caliber of people, and it suddenly got like a much better event, and had a bit of a reputation, definitely.
Because it has sort of like a main act, effectively, and then there was usually support from a Brighton act, and then the sort of open mic sort of element of it, wasn't there?
Do you know what? It was all about the open mic, and people really just came for the open mic. We should have done it all night, but it almost needed to be punctuated by an act, so everyone can go for a fag and chill out for a bit. But yeah,
and also something to aspire to, isn't it? You know, if you're a freestyler and you're seeing an act on that stage, you might want to sort of aspire to that and get on that stage next time as an act.
Yeah, but like, I'm fond memories of when just randomly really sick rappers who were well known turned up and just got up in the open mic. You're like, shit, unlucky headline act. Do you know what I mean? Like someone really well known has just got involved. Do you know what I mean? Like it was really cool in those days. It was just, but like I say, like I think what I mentioned earlier, like it was really hard to police as well because there would be shit people and there would be mic hogs and there would be people who had beef with each other and there would be people who didn't dare get to the mic or were being blocked off for whatever reason. And what I didn't really realise until it finally until we stepped away from it, but it was that the community of everyone just being in the same place every month, the entire hip hop community pretty much. Obviously, there's going to be other people, but it stopped all the beef. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you had to see people. Do you know what I mean? You had to be in the same place and get on stage with them. You had to have it out with them, and you had to do you know what I mean? If you had some beef with someone, but it just kind of stopped all that. And as soon as Slipjam stopped, the whole scene just turned into factions, and just fractures. Yeah, both. Like it just completely so there's people over here trying to put nights on cheap, and it was and it made me realise that it was once a really strong kind of community. Not necessarily if everyone was invested in that community, but just having that thing made that you couldn't really. Like beef just got. It was too much effort because you'd have to bump into people all the time, and as soon as it was moved the equation, so much beef.
But again, it's a form of, you know, we talk about playing music as a form of sort of music therapy, and writing and freestyling and being part of a hip hop community is getting that release. And I guess from a mental health point of view, if you're able to get up on stage and have it out with the person you're pissed off with and, you know, you've got issues with, that's got to be a good thing from a mental health point of view as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think so, man. And a lot of the work we do is around that, but I don't think it was always even about that. I think it's just, you know, the problem with especially nowadays, social media and just reputations and stuff, is people just thought they didn't like each other until they're forced to be on stage next to each other, and then they suddenly go, it's quite sick actually. It's just all different.
Yeah.
Different places, do you know what I mean? Like that was one of the strengths of it. I think it's just like I hate that guy, and then they watch it go, it's pretty good. And or they've said they're going to do this or do that, and then they're right next to him, and then they didn't do it. It's just there was something about it that was really pacifying, I think.
Yeah, and that's got to help further out as well, hasn't it? You know, through their own little groups and then through their families and all the rest of it. So it's letting off steam and letting off and venting. So when it finished, obviously Slipjam, you know, was there anything that sort of took its place in terms of an open mic, or is it always, like you say,
bits and bobs. There's loads of little bits and bobs, to be honest. But I mean, I'd had kids, and I had to just kind of have a break. And I tried to train up some people I thought would be good. I think the thing is, without bigging myself up too much, I think a lot of people thought they could host Slipjam, but there was so many factors. So I tried to train up some people to do it, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you've got to watch out. Like you might suddenly get this because you're taking a mic off someone, or just this, and you've got to, so you might have to respond, and all these you know what I mean, rap related factors." And I remember just some guys trying to do one, but I was just, I'm going to step back tonight. I didn't even big up the act. I'm like, yo, come on, there's some social things here, man. It's not even a rap thing. Don't be a dick. Do you know what I mean? And it was just people found it quite hard because it is a lot of things at once. Do you know what I mean? And as a host, you've got maybe not in most things, but you've got to make sure everyone comes in from the smoking area to watch the main acts and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of pressure, isn't there? You need to make it a success. You want to build up the vibe and get the energy going, because otherwise it's just a flat room, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's really hard work, man. I remember when it was a really quiet one time early on, and I was like, I'm really concerned. It's a really good act, And then I was just like, where's blah, 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 a certain rapper? And it's like, oh, there's a cypher down the road. There's like 70 people there. And I just had
Right.
to storm down and go, dickheads, do you know what I mean? Like, it's your crowd. Like, people are walking out because no one here. Like, you decided to do it down the road instead of in the venue. You know what I mean? Yeah, rappers are idiots, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, rappers every day. Yeah.
Fair enough. And what's the scene like now in Brighton? Is this still
I
fairly hip
mean,
hop orientated or not?
it's a good question, man. I think it's changed. It's definitely changed, and I don't think there's as much going on as there was. I mean, back in the day, like, I'm thinking of when beer and rap was going on, and like there used to be so much stuff going on. As in, like 52 Records used to be there. They used to get artists like, I don't know, like Quell and Maker, like really obscure artists, and like it was amazing. And like working with like Alias or that, you know what I mean, like all the kind of anti-con stuff. So they were putting nights on, and then you'd have like the Slipjam stuff for the locals, and then you'd have like people like, I don't know, slightly more, I wouldn't say mainstream, but like the other side of hip hop playing. You'd have some mad weeks. Like sometimes on my Facebook, like memories, I'm just like, what the fuck? But I'm not sure. You know, I've been like, I'm not sure what to go to tonight. There's like this old
So
hip hop
much.
thing going on. There's this local hip hop thing going on, and this like, I'm like, oh, bit of a, and then so it's not like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's going to be very, very different. And I think um, uh, there's still bits and bobs, and like shouts out to Baked Beats. That's probably the inheritor of the Slipjam kind of thing, because they do a thing down at the Fortune Award. It's a really fun open mic thing. It's not the same, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be the same. Like it's yeah, no, it's really nice. They rap out at the front of the Fortune Award. And that's totally different as well, because it gathers a lot of people who walk through in the summer and just like, you know, the rappers from London or whatever just get involved. So I'm not hosting that one, to be honest. But yeah, it's just a lovely thing to go and get involved in. It's a really good community, and sick people pass through. So there's still things going on. There's also like, I mean, I don't go to many of the nights, I've got to admit, because I live in Lewis now and I've got kids. But you know, there's collectives around. They know who they are. They're doing some bits and bobs.
Well, tell us about the Lewis scene. Is there anything going on in Lewis?
Nah, man. Look, I go and rap. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't not. So I've been invading the general open mic nights. So like a lot of bluesy. There's sick musicians, man, but there's generally about 12 acoustic guitars there.
Yeah.
Drown out a certain sound of wall from my frequency. It's not amplified.
Yeah.
But to be fair though, the last one I went to, there was percussionists and a flute player and a violinist. So I produced live, basically just going 95 BPM, just playing like D minor, and now just come through with steps, and it was fucking sick. So yeah, I rise to the top of the piles.
So you're almost sort of directing them in
Yeah,
terms of yeah. It's a bit like an orchestra.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh yeah, guitarist can get involved as well.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on to Audio Active then. So tell us what Audio Active is.
Well, this kind of links in quite nicely with what you're saying. What's the Brighton scene like? Because I was trying not to just mention all the young people I know. Do you know what I mean? Because like, I don't know what the scene is now, because I'm a bit, well, I do know, but I'm a bit removed. Do you know what I mean? Like, but the wonderful thing is that, as I started off saying right at the beginning, is that each one teach one thing is instilled in me. Do you know what I mean? And that is, I can't help but have that in my personality as well. So that to put things in the context, to go a bit further back in time, like my mum was a youth worker, and she was very, very sick, that sort of thing. And I kind of took the piss out of her. I thought she just hung around with kids in parks, because we had a youth worker who hung around with kids in parks. And it was a bit, do you know what I mean? So,
Right.
but as I got older and I got to about 16 and started going to a sort of like the rougher areas. No, my just as rough as mine, but a different rough area. I was meeting people because my surname, going, are you Liz Hines' son? I was just like, yeah. So they were telling me mad stories. I almost told them that, but it's too mad to tell. And I'm like, she did what? But supporting young people, and it was really inspiring. And I'm not saying it inspired me to be a youth worker, because I was like, you fucking nutcase. Why did you do any of these things? Do you know? But when I moved to Brighton, it was actually think of Emma. I'm not going to say who her boyfriend is, because it's personal. But she was just like, oh, I need someone to teach some rap sessions. And I hadn't really considered being a youth worker, but I had I used to talk about it with my mum a lot, because I had dodgy friends, and sometimes the people from the area she was a youth worker in would be in my house, and she'd have to kick them out, and she'd have to explain to me like what it was all about, why they couldn't be in my house and stuff. When I was like 15, 16. So I kind of had an understanding of youth work, weirdly, from not being youth worked. Never went to youth clubs or anything. But yeah, they needed a rap teacher, and I got kind of put forward to it. And I'd taken people under my wing as well, because of this each one teach one thing. So shouts out to my absolute homeboy English from Cornwall. I lived in Cornwall for a while, and I found the only young person who rapped, because I needed to rap with someone, and I trained him up a bit. He's a sick rapper now, do you know what I mean? But shouts out to English, man. This is my fucking G's. Another Imagineer. Shouts out to Cleverly as well from Sheffield. But so yeah, I got involved in that, and that was 20 years ago. What do you like to? And I'm still doing it. So I did like rap workshops nearly. I mean, there was times when they stopped for a bit for various reasons and funding and stuff. But nearly 20 years I rapped with a room full of young people. So that's, yeah, I've done it a very long time. And then I'm not a rap teacher anymore. I've stood down. I mean, I still do it, obviously. I still get involved. But yeah, so I manage all of the Brighton and East Sussex projects now. And it's changed very much. So we work, now it's not so much just youth work. We do a lot of kind of intervention work and diversion work. We work with some quite extreme cases of this. It's all very, very real. It's an interesting one, man.
And it must be heartwarming is maybe not the right word, but when you teach rap and see the effect it has on these kids, because you talked earlier about doing freestyles and obviously getting out your thoughts and all the rest of it. Is this part of it as well? Is it a way of these kids getting out what's going on in their heads through rap and through rhyming?
Yeah, definitely. In some cases, I mean, there's lots of different projects with different kind of aims, really. And what you just mentioned just really fits into what we had a project which is on a pause at the moment, which was called Room to Rant, which was fully a mental health project, fully mental health of that. So there's a counsellor, a mental health professional embedded in the session, and it's all about writing for whatever reason you need to write. But it's not necessarily about public consumption. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about going to hop on a track and make a banger. Do you know what I mean? It's about like getting some shit off your chest, and that might just stay in the room. And that might be useful for other parts of your life and stuff as well. But there's different ways we can use writing and creativity without just trying to be famous. Do you know what I mean?
And that comes back to what you said pretty early on, wasn't it? That, you know, you weren't getting into the music and to get stuff released. It was more for you, wasn't it? And I guess it's been a help to you in your mental health being able to do that? And is it a case of teaching these kids that this is something that can aid you going forwards?
Well, I wasn't a teacher on the Rintaround project. I set it up, and I've been very close to some of the people who've been involved, and some of the people who sadly passed away through suicide. I've been very close to lots of them. But if I'm being honest, I'm naturally a massive introvert. I'm massively I got into drama as a kid because it was free, because I was from a single parent family and they just said free thing. So I kind of got into drama, and I ended up just weirdly being in big plays. I didn't really enjoy it. I'm not saying I'm like nervous or anything, I'm shy, but I am an introvert and I want to be on my own. And then, but then I had this stage persona through rap and freestyling that is quite gregarious and quite likes going out. Do you know what I mean? But this is why, and this is something we haven't talked about at all, is why I love production, because then I can be my true, quiet, not thinking about anything self. But I do have two sides of me, and then they're both hip hop, and they don't really connect. Do you know what I mean? I don't rap on my own beats. I don't even really share people my beats. They're so personal. But then my rap side is where I'm popular, for want of a better word. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's how I know people all over the country. Do you know what I mean? That's that.
Well, tell us a bit about the production then, and then we'll come back to sort of production for Audio Active. How did you first get into production? What were you using at the beginning?
At the beginning, Jesus, Apple Sound Edit 16 or some shit that's obsolete now. It's like copying and pasting silence to move drums up. And I still miss it now. It's making some bangers like that. And then that became obsolete. It was a very old Mac, and it doesn't exist, that program anymore. And then I was just toying around with it. Do you know what, actually? I tried to have a go on someone's MPC 2000 when I was really young, and they told me it was really complicated. It would take me years to learn. I believed them.
Right. Okay.
And then through someone just randomly needed some money, I bought a cheap 2000 XL when I was about 24. So quite late in life, man. Yeah, I picked it up in like 24 hours. Stupid. Should never listen to that person. Do you know what I mean? Learn how to use it instantly. It's a piece of piss, but calculator. But it really annoyed me that I hadn't done it sooner, man. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I also, at the same time, found it really frustrating because it was a slow process, man. Do you know what I mean? It's very slow turning that wheel and clicking those buttons and go. And also, like, at that time, I was like living in a place where the electric went out all the time, and I'd lose whole projects because I hadn't saved it.
Oh no!
So I got sick of the MPC. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. So people are very nostalgic about it, and it is my gateway drug, definitely. But I ain't gonna lie, I'm not gonna go back to that. So then I just I got a Mac, and then someone recommended Ableton when no one was using it. No one was Ableton 5. So
early doors.
No one was using it, and they were just like, "No, it's really good," and I trusted them. They weren't making hip hop, but they knew their shit sonically and technologically. So I got a crack copy of that. I love Ableton, man. Yeah, I've been rocking it for years, and I'm all the way up to not even on 12 yet. I was gonna say, but I'm on 11. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a great piece of software, and you can do basic stuff and you can do really complicated stuff, and it just works.
I mean, everyone's using it now, but like I say, for years no one was using it, and I'm not someone to be like, no, you should be using this. I'd like to keep things under wraps. You know what I mean? When I find a little BST, I keep my mouth shut, you know? When I find a good source of samples, I keep my mouth shut. But now everyone knows. But for ages, I felt like the only user for about a decade. Do you know? No one was using it. Not for hip hop, anyway. They were using it for trance and house and stuff.
Yeah, I guess everyone was probably still on hardware rather than software. Yeah. So Now, is it still Ableton, or are you using hardware as well now?
Nah, I haven't got space or time or money for hardware. Like basically, I've been involved in all of the elements of hip hop, but I've never been involved in anything that cost me too much money.
Right. Ah, that's a good
Like,
way to be. Yeah.
I got involved in graph. It was pretty much free, if you know what I'm saying. I got
Yeah.
involved in breakdancing. Love fucking shouts out to my boys, Bad Taste Crew. Free. Do you know what I mean? And rapping is obviously free. Yeah, do you know? Production, I like to keep it as cheap as absolutely possible. And with that, actually, I'll big up, like, if everyone's not using it, the Koala app on your phone. Shout out to Marek, the developer of that. Like, he's a G as well. Like, if you don't know, just make it so simple. I've made some of the sickest beats on my phone, man. I still send them to my computer to mix and master them and to make them a bit more spicy. But I've made some of the sickest beats on my phone. £4 app. Listen to that.
Yeah, I saw that because I saw on your Facebook as well. I think you can change the background, and you had your sort of logo and stuff in the background as part of that, didn't you?
Well, I mean, big up Marek, man. He's constantly like updating it, and it started off as a bit of a toy that I found quite fun, and I think a lot of people found just like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's a bit like a SB404, and he just really listened to user feedback, and I'll just say it. I think it's better than SB404 now because he just keeps adding features. It's got time stretch on it. It's got fucking, it's fucking banging. It's got stem separation on it nowadays. There's always these little tweaks. It's
wow.
Like, oh, shit,
yeah, SB404 can't do that.
Yeah, it's powerful, man.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, the Koala app, if anyone wants to check that out. So let's sort of take that back to, because part of Audio Active is production as well, isn't there, that you're teaching? Is that right?
Yeah. So I manage the Brighton and the East Sussex projects, but yeah, music production's been a big thing. Like with all this, like we're not just about urban, and I hate that word, but about like black music and electronic stuff. We're not about that. We are open to other stuff, but we've always had so much success, especially with the rap stuff, because we like our alumni have done so well with the rap stuff and production as well. But yeah, production's always been like really key. I mean, it's hard to stay cutting edge of it all because everything changes so much. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, nowadays it changes daily.
Well, I mean, let's look at it this way. Obviously, you talked about the Koala app. Is that something you use as part of the production teaching so that the kids can go away?
I don't teach production much at Audio Active, but I definitely try and show people a cheap way of being a producer. Yeah, 1000%. Do you know what I mean? I definitely think that's the way to do it. That's my approach. Do you know what I mean? Like, on a budget, you can, you don't have to buy a Mac. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I love my Mac, but you don't have to buy a Mac.
I mean, everyone's got a phone these days, and they can do so many things that's your first port of call, isn't it, for most apps and things now?
And also, like, you've got to be, I think, like, so my weapon of choice is Ableton, but I've used it since version 5. So, so every update, I've learned the new features and gone, oh, that's cool. Let's explore that. But like, I think from someone coming in as a beginner and having to learn everything I knew from 5 in one go, like, that's a hard task. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so much been bolted on, like quite complex things as well. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really, so personally, when I do production sessions and stuff, I'm personally enjoying simpler apps and simpler things that you're just as powerful. So I really like the Serato one at the moment. Like, big up Serato, because they gave us loads of free licenses for their Serato studio.
Yeah,
and it's just it's cool, man. Do you know what I mean? Serato sample's cool, man. It's like maybe you can't do everything that you can do in other DAWs, but it's just I picked up in seconds. It's really intuitive. Like, I think that's really important, especially when how complicated things can be if you're a novice or entry level. Do you know?
Yeah, cool. Right. I mean, we're coming sort of to the end of the show. We've been talking about quite a lot of things. We talked about Slipjam, we talked about Audio Active, we talked about your sort of musical influences. What have you got sort of coming up in the near future? Have you got any events, or is it just more of the same in terms of Audio Active?
I mean, they're mainly, yeah, I've got loads of events that I'm helping to organise, but they're mainly audio active. But there's some significant ones, you know. Like, I would like to big up Barco, which is the Brighton anti-racist community organisation, because they're going to do a big day at St Anne's Wells Garden. I think it's on the 27th of July, but it might be 28th. I can't remember off the top of my head. So we're going to bring some special guests down for that, man. There's going to be a really good lineup for that, man. I think it's a really important thing, and I'm talking to a lot about it, so that'll be cool. We've got a lot of audio active things, and not just Brighton. We've got some special things going on in Crawley as well, and Worthing. So definitely worth checking the line. And just because these are some young people playing and stuff, like, don't underestimate them, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember when a really good friend of mine is a really fucking sick rapper that you all will know who it is. It's like, yeah, I'll come and do some workshops with you, share the knowledge, and give back to the community. And he shit himself when he got there because he probably wasn't the top 5 rapper in the room, man. Do you know what I mean? Don't underestimate these kids, man. On a personal level, I don't really want to give too much away. But
No, don't worry. Let me ask another question.
I know, you know what? I will, because I'm quite happy about it, and I don't care. But so my old friend Dr. Syntax that I mentioned, like, I've been rapping with him for years and years and years and years, and rapping. And then I was sitting with my son doing Lego, who's 8 years old, a few months back. And I was finding it hard to put something on. I'm sure parents know about it. So there was like suitable, there was rap, there was relevant. And he was like, put one of your friends on. And I was like, and even that wasn't easy. Do you know what I mean? To be suitable and relevant and all. I was like, oh, Ben's a safe pair of fucking hands. I put on some Dr. Syntax. And we listened to it for ages. And then towards the end, he was like rapping along with some of the bits, going, he's sick. Like, you know this guy? And I was like, yeah, you met him. He stayed here about 3 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? And he's going, you should do an album with him. And I was like, yeah, I probably should, because text him now. And that's what, so I did. And yeah, we're like, nearly wrapped it, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I love the fact my son executive produced that. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, he sort of inspired you and pushed you in an amazing direction.
I think sometimes it's hard to see the wood for the trees when you got to remember, like, I've taught like 1,000 rappers. Do you know what I mean? And I've done shows with hundreds. And trying to think who'd be good to do an album with is surprisingly hard. Like, it's like you get surprisingly confused. So I missed like, oh yeah, my friend.
Yeah.
That I've always liked rapping with. Yeah, he wasn't on my radar. That's so bizarre, isn't it?
Amazing, cool. I'm just going to say hello to T2 Funky's just come in as well. Right, I'm just going to set the raid. So we're going to take people to another chat channel. Let me just set that raid. Get that going. Okay, cool. We are doing that. But yeah, it's been great. Like I said, sort of chance encounter at Elderflower Fields Festival a couple of weeks ago, and here we are, and it's been really interesting. But yeah, if you hang on there for a minute, and we'll have a quick chat after the show. But thanks so much for giving up your time. Thanks for the stories, the education, the inspiration. You know, I've certainly taken a lot away from it. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, man. Much appreciate it.
Take it easy.